Welcome to the Samueletini Show, where business, innovation, and sustainability converge to drive progress. Are you ready to uncover solutions shaping our future? Let's dive in.
Welcome to a new episode. So, today we are going back to Kenya and we are going to discuss a very important commodity. Coffee has been the staple backbone of Kenya agriculture. And we do it with the coffee man of Kenya, somebody that has been in the sector, he knows it left, right, and center. So, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and honor hosting you today, Henry Kinyua.
Thank you, Samuel. How are you? Thank you, everybody. Yes, my name is Henry Kinyua. Yes, the coffee man of Kenya. I do quite a bit of work with coffee. I love coffee. I think I commented about Kenyan coffee on all my socials. Those who follow me on LinkedIn, those who follow me on Facebook, and many places I commented about the Kenyan coffee. But why actually that? Why the Kenyan coffee? If somebody may ask, I'm a trained agronomist. My first degree was in agriculture, and my first job from university was to work with smallholder farmers in central Kenya, in County Narok, Murang'a. So it's work with farmers, and the one thing you learn when you work with the farmer is the passion they have for whatever crop they produce. To many people, they're just bushes of trees growing, but to the farmers, this is a livelihood. This is their commitment. This is everything to them, and therefore you realize that everything from their structuring of even where to put their home is like to make sure that is it close to where I go to pick to pick my coffee, how to set up their coffee bushes. How is it close to where I can go harvest it? So there's a lot of thinking that goes to it, and therefore now one thing over the years that in that period I realized is that for me being trained in an agronomist, my biggest problem I thought like in coffee were normally the number 3 problems in coffee, like the crop husbandry, the pruning and such, then crop nutrition, and the fertilizer, the liming, the soil analysis, and that, and then the third part, what we call up the crop protection. So these are like normally the big buckets for me. I was like, handle the crop husbandry well, the pruning well, then handle the crop nutrition well, and then finally have the crop protection, depending on the variety that you have. Make sure you address the diseases, you address insect pests and other pests, and then you're home. But then you work more with farmers. It's true that one is okay. They are doing very well, but it's still one thing that, farmers did a lot of, and that is the market. And that's actually initially I would thought it was a straightforward, but it was actually the most shocking one that I realized it wasn't the straightforward. And at many people, not just farmers, even many professionals did truly understand, be able to connect the coffee cherry that is picked from the farm to the coffee green bean that is sold at the auction. So I remember those days because I was a young man riding a motorcycle. So we'd go to the shopping center. In Kenya, there are these shops where largely men, men who after doing the day's job, or some after not actually doing nothing, we just congregate and just talk about anything and everything, about politics, about football, about the many stuff that men talk about. And one topic that men would discuss is actually coffee. And maybe a guy, one of the village who knows about, he'll pick a newspaper and read the prices at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange. And he'll say, because Nairobi Coffee Exchange, coffee is priced by 50-kilogram bag. So it's like, if the price would be like $350 per bag. And the guy, they'll do very quick math. $350 per bag divided by that is like, that is $7. That time, I think it was a long time ago, I think $1 was 50 shillings. They'll do 7 by, that's like 350 shillings. And our people here are paying that's 30 shillings. So they have stolen all our money. And everybody will be like, yes, they have stolen our money. And they will storm out, they will thinking, and you hear most of the leadership of the cooperatives, media were held out, not because they stolen, but because somebody somewhere felt that because they were using the wrong metrics. Because we are looking at it.
And Henry, can I go for a question on this? Because this is really a topic that is also, debated in the West. So how, and also working with farmer, I understand this. The big issue is really how farmer can capture value, and not only farmer, even let's say countries, because they know that Kenya is famous for the green beans, but we know that the real market, the real prices are when it's roasted. And then how you can really capture more value from the farmer and in the country.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll say my other specialty after I did agriculture, my training in value chain analysis. And in value chain, the best you can capture is actually if you are able to control the entire value chain. If you control the entire value chain, you will be able to capture value at all levels. However, sometimes, and that can be done by farmers if they are organized and structured into cooperatives. And you can find out cooperatives can be able to capture entire value. And capture entire value is that you pick the cherry, you pick the cherry, pulp it, and then do the pulping, then take the parchment to the dry mill. Some either can be owned by a union, now a larger union, and then that union now based on that, and actually now the farmers can determine how to go about it. Actually, the interesting thing now, the government, the laws currently allow that. So you will see farmers union like Kipkerion in Kericho County in the western part, west rift part of Kenya, or Kirinyaga Coffee Cooperative Union in Kirinyaga County. You'll find some of these and many other cooperatives, or even now here in Kiambu called Rido Cooperatives or Udaya Cooperatives in Nyeri. So these cooperatives, farmers cooperatives, are able to actually, they're playing almost every area of the value chain. They're pulping, they are drying, they have a dry mill, because as long as they have the economics of scale, they are able to aggregate from many cooperatives. And then from there, once they have the clean coffee, depending on the market, because Kenya, they are selling it three way. One is they are selling it through the normal, they exchange the green beans. That's normally bring the lowest, but it is the fastest moving because it is the commodity that is traded globally. So it's a commodity that many people are able to buy quickly and do many other things. So green beans is still 95%, almost like 95% of the Kenyan product, like what is being sold. Then you have now the bit of roasting. They now the roast and package the coffee. Some of them now targeting domestic markets. And the challenge you've had was the domestic market. We are not drinking as much coffee. So again, there's now that if you compare like Kenya and Ethiopia, that it's like almost 50% of their coffee. So even if they can do addition and they are the value back to the farmers, you might find it higher than in Kenya when we are exporting it than green beans. So I think to me the best way to capture value for the farmers is it's just to make sure at every step you are efficient at each and every step. And also you as a farmer, either through your cooperative, you are either in control of each step or you understand, you're able to place smart. You understand so that if you are selling, now that's why cooperatives are unions or whether some of them are even trained at brokers or export agent farmers. The importance of them, those ones, when they are at that level, is they're able to employ competent professionals that can help them do marketing. Which area are we going to target? Because different regions of the world require different marketing positioning, and say we position you for the beans, but then over time we do make for specialty coffee, we go to different areas. So I think for me, the best way for farmers to capture value is to ensure that first there's free flow of information from end to end, that everybody understand the conversions, the everything and the how it goes. And then farmer organizers are empowered by themselves. The farmers, the government plays a role, but in largely the farmers are doing whatever they have to do with the organization. And then they're able now to engage as equal peers with those who are buying on the other side. It's not like farmers sitting down saying, somebody help us. No, farmers really have to. And right now, as I've mentioned, it had been demonstrated by various cooperatives that indeed farmers are able to get to whatever stage as long as they organize appropriately, get into necessary partnership with the private sector where necessary to capture the market, capture value at every stage.
Fantastic. And this is the real, I would say, and I like the passion that you have, the real coffee man. You are also at the forefront of what is the comeback, no? And of coffee in Kenya. After many years, in the everybody maybe who is listening abroad has watched the movie Out of Africa and the coffee and everything. So there was a decline, and now there is a resurgence of coffee and everything. So what is also the role of the institution playing in it, in this comeback of coffee and strengthening of this critical and important sector for the country?
I've said what the government has done in terms of the government now. We have the right, the legal framework is in place that does not hinder development of the soil either by the farmer or the private sector or even by the development agencies. Then again, because of that, and involvement of many people like myself, commentating on coffee, cooperatives also talking about their coffee, Nairobi Coffee Exchange talking about it. So there's now this conversation, people trying to look at this coffee value chain, not like very exclusive for some people, but a value that people can invest in. And that is why it's needing now a bit of that in the investment. We have seen the different areas that now the west of the Rift Valley, the counties like Nandi, Uasin Gishu, Baringo, even Nakuru, Narok, a bit of, Kisii and Homa Bay. So we've seen most of the counties that initially were not coffee producing counties now producing coffee. And this for me is a very interesting situation. And this is what we need to look. This will be lead into the upside of the Kenyan coffee in the near future. And sustain that, because we have for the last 50, 60 years we've had 33 counties. Kenya has 47 counties, 2 city counties, Mombasa and Nairobi. So you can say the agriculture counties have been like 45. And after that, 33 counties were the coffee producing counties. However, out of those 33 counties, 11 counties have been producing like 70 to 85% of the coffee produced. So in actual fact, the coffee in Kenya has been from like 11 counties, which is good. But from a political perspective, this is my own opinion, when you have a commodity that is able to be produced in many counties in a country like Kenya, it becomes easier because the policy guidelines is better to be addressed and appreciated by all Kenyans, all the people in that country, than it just look like an exclusive for one region. It becomes easier for the government to allocate resources, because if before the government allocating resources to coffee, it would appear as if government is appeasing the 11 counties that are producing coffee. But right now, if we are to 40, it is to everybody's resources to a commodity that is being produced or benefiting the entire country. So I think for me, these new counties coming into coffee production is a great thing for the country, and it's something that will ensure that the future of coffee in Kenya is sustained and is more certain. So the other thing, what that shows two things: the 11 and 33 counties that have been producing coffee, but they're also not being left behind. What you might find is some like those closer to the city have lost significant amount of that land to urbanization. That is expected. And what is happening is what has been left is now the farmers are investing more in increasing the productivity of coffee. So it's like, how do we produce more from the same? We see also other now diversifying of how to market. We have like one estate here near Kiambu called Fairview Estate. So Fairview Estates, you look at it, how they market their coffee is different ways in terms of they do the whole value. They even export even the roasted package, but also they have introduced a lot of coffee agrotourism, coffee tourism, agrotourism in coffee. There are a lot of training. So you see what you find is that those that now close this, they now moving out to look at other value added product or services for coffee. So that now ensure that every player is able to find their niche, find their space, and that is now helping. Now you see this resurgence we see of the coffee in the country.
Fantastic, and I really felt it. After 20 years in Kenya, I really seen, the growth and the movement and the vibrancy of this research, and especially sitting on the, let's say, not traditional counties, but on the new, let's say, counties. I've seen that movie. I want to ask a question from an outside perspective. There's been a lot of debate now even on in social media, in the press, even in the discussion about this UDR. So it seems that the UDR is maybe some commentator, even on the podcast, came and said, we are putting a farmer, what is he doing is really planting coffee and working on that. Now you are asking him to do triangles and things and technology. So how you are integrating UDR to be, let's say, farmer friendly, and how can Kenya can be, let's say, ride the wave of UDR and also conquer also the market in Europe?
I think we have been here before, and by my honest opinion on UDR would be unprintable. So I'll not say, but now I'll go to the professional because I've been here before in the early 2000s. at that time I was in horticulture. I was leading an outgrow account, and I was leading an outgrow scheme that was producing vegetables for export to the EU that time. At that time, we came up, the buyers, the market days came up with what you call the Europe gap. Later it's got the global gap, the good agriculture price. Nice stuff, but it's the way it was being packaged. It's so market oriented and not putting anywhere. And it's so EUDR, in my opinion, is just a political time wasting, but it's what folks in the European politicians have to say something that we felt like they are looking after their people. But for me, it's a hell of a waste of time. However, we are where we are, we have to market. You have to continue to the market. And what that is happening is that look at what is the good things about UDL, because all these, they are actually great things and can happen, because like Kenyan coffee, traceability of Kenyan coffee has been top. Even today, when you buy, you can actually trace it to the cooperative where it was produced. You can trace it from the market. The coffee, Kenyan's coffee has what we call an outturn number. If you look at and within that outturn number, it is a unique code that can drive you back to the cooperatives when it was produced. And within that cooperative, because every coffee farmer in Kenya has a unique number. So if it is I'm a member of Keberegwe Farmers Cooperative, I'll have number 185. That will be exactly Henry Kinyua, but not somebody else. A member number 120 in a cooperative like Cheptais, it will be in Keri, it will be totally different. A farmer number 10 in a cooperative like Chepkube in Bugoma, it will be somebody different. A number 10 in a cooperative like Gikanda would be in Central Kenya. So it's a very unique number. What that means is that traceability, the current geolocation, whatever would have been achieved if achieved and maybe that's what I hope, that when the people came to look at come to look at the issue of from EUDR, that's why Kenya was categorized as low risk, because indeed Kenya is highly low risk in terms of deforestation. In fact, what most of the farmers Kenyan do, they actually reforest coffee, because most of the coffee farms, also farmers plant what you call the shade crops. Shade crop before used to be the grevillea, the normal trees, those that farmers are also using for firewood. But right now, most farmers, I think in the last 10 years or 5, you've seen farmers now using avocado, using macadamia, and these are trees actually. So these are trees. So in actual fact, by the end of season, you'll find farmers with more coffee bush, coffee, another tree, another forest, if you can now look at, than now that just cutting down on the forest. So I think UDL is. Farmers are, in fact, it's not difficult for Kenya. That's one I was not surprised that Kenya was actually low risk, because farmers in Kenya, like even the new areas, you find farmers are really get into forest because right now, even you look at now the new counties, of the one we said, if you look at Narok, look at Baringo, look at Uasin Gishu, look at what these farmers are doing, they are substituting one crop for the other. They are not so then the same farming area that they have been producing maize and all that is what they are setting aside an extra. I know they're cutting a half an acre or 1 acre to put coffee. So I don't see Kenya doesn't have a lot of risk of comply. It's now only when you now get into that the verification, the evidence that now, particularly now when you go to from that cooperatives, and these cooperatives a cooperative of 500 people, we are like this 500 people, it would have been easier, and we have been having this conversation at different levels, that at that cooperative would have been easy, that cooperative level, to just ensure the land of without now having to force again that cooperative now go to the individual plots of these 500 farmers, yet the practices are largely the same. The coffee they produce they produce to be processed collectively from all these farms. So that's the only thing. But in actual fact is that is something I think, and I've been in this space for a while. I've seen politicians, whether in Europe or in Africa, I've seen just politicians, because politicians just have one. It's like somebody with a hammer. Every problem is a nail. You just want every regulation. But it's not that difficult. It will be the Kenyan farmers and East African farmers, particularly Kenya. I will talk more about Kenyan farmers, have no problem comply to that. And I am not surprised that Kenya is low risk and but we could have achieved exactly the same objectives without putting this unnecessary additional cost.
No, in fact, that is also, I agree with you, because being in the field, especially with our work, we We support a lot of macadamia, reforestation, edging, multi-layering, and all of that, which is actually helping, the soils. And I want to ask this question, because being a practitioner, I put the hat of practitioner now, NGOs and other development agency, government, private sector are coming into the field of support farmer, let's say projects and things. Sometimes even, maybe double duplication and others. So for you, since you are leading also the comeback of coffee in Kenya, so which are the real ways, for credibly create a resilient supply chain? Which is the good practices that you as government you want to foster?
Yeah, I think number one is that the government is very, very keen on. Number one is looking at our soils. You will never produce anything if you don't look at the soil. So I think the soil health of is like critical, and the government is looking into that from. And this is area, not just the government. The government has to put the right framework, but even other farmers and private sector can get. You just make sure that the soil health is looked at. Number one, like most of the old coffee plains, the soils are very acidic, so I do make sure that that one is started from the soil analysis, the amendment, and then ensure that whatever a nutrition is put, it's not just put fertilizer, but as a whole nutrition is looking at the entire soil health in terms whether it's regenerative agriculture, many other things that and farmers are doing. That's number one. But I think that one is then secondly is the new coffee also in putting in a lot of research. We are now in the issue the era of global warming. This research from biodiversity have demonstrated that the coffee the temperatures of the coffee is actually going to rise or been rising, and therefore there's need to how do we make sure that your varieties are a bit more heat tolerant, and also varieties that are more disease tolerant, or if even disease resistant where possible, that they can reduce the cost. So again, also invest significantly that up in research. Thirdly, is also the issue about information, ensuring the farmers and everybody understand. And like I was illustrating that, whereby one farmer, somebody looking at the price at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange says 350, they divide by, say the farmer should not forgetting, not remembering or forgetting that what is have traded at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange is coffee bean. And if you convert the conversion ratio of a kilo of coffee beans from the cherry, you need about 6.5, 6 to almost 7, but normally use a 6.5 kilos of cherry to give you 1 kilo of clean beans. So moving from that saying 350 by 50 is $7, you have to divide that again by 6.5 to know exactly what is the price can be coming to the farmer. So that information, packaging, and ensuring that it's able to access all that becomes, and this is the area where now strengthening more the extension services. And extension services, this is where now again both government, farmers, and even price can come in to strengthen the extension services for smallholder farmers at the cooperative level, empower cooperatives and so support cooperatives as they empower themselves. I like just saying that cooperative and farmers, I know they have to empower them. The other people, whether it's the government, whether the developer, they can just come partner with them to support them, but it has to be the farmers' initiative, and we are seeing a lot of that. And then finally now is the issue of markets. Market is again understanding the market, play the market, just understand which market do you get your coffee to have. Like Kenyan for the last 10, 15 years have been contributing at 0.45% of the global coffee. But our coffee has been very great. Coffee is a specialty coffee. So I think that's them looking at the government. How do we make sure that our marketing is more diversified, that we have more direct linkages for specialty coffee than because we try to compete as commercial. We'll never compete with Brazil at the commodity stage. At the commercial and the Vietnams because of but if you're able now, and this is now where the government and the private sector, we're looking at how do we now make sure we develop more direct contacts, more direct relationship between either the specialty coffee buyers and the farmer organizations. And one thing I think that we also I've had several development partners looking at how, as somebody from outside Kenya, how can you know if you say you like coffee that is fruity flavor, that is less acidic, how would you know where that coffee is? So there's efforts to develop what we call a flavor map, so that global economic map of Kenya say this is the map that has the coffee that the coffee that I need, and then you can look at it. Then you can do now. You use technology to see which cooperatives are the farmers. That to me is the way even you can use technology way better than just the EUDR. So I think I see. So as I say in summary, the areas I see is basically what I see: the soil health that has to be up to has to be looked looked into. Second, looking at the issue of research on the varieties and the farming practices that are able to responsive to the current global changes, but also the market requirement. And then marketing, whereby farmers will understand what is able to play the market, are able to just play within where they are able to get to. And these are the areas now. And using technology, particularly for the market. These are where they're helping developing flavor maps. They're helping develop these traceability, how it can track to the farmers. Helping now the payment systems that the farmers can track. And I think that's we've seen a lot of cooperatives that automate their coffee, their weighing scale, automating the processing, that farmers themselves can understand how the coffee is being sold. So I think I've been looking at all the infrastructure, but the farmers driving that. Everybody in coming to support. Not if you are development, whether you're an NGO or whatever, you don't come do it for the farmers. Work together with the farmers. Let the farmers be in the lead and support it. If it's the government is doing the same, and even in other areas, that's the private sector. Most of the farmers cooperative, because farmers cooperative. When people talk of private sector, particularly in Africa, there's this thing that private sector has to be this registered corporate persona with some suits wearing guys like myself coming to speak a lot of English to the farmers. That's the private sector. But the private sector, even farmers themselves, the cooperative, actually those are the private sector. We look at it from that angle. We will not go looking for other private sector. We work with these cooperatives, these farmers, these estates that are there, and see how do we, either as development partners or government or even innovators, how do we come in to ensure that all of these aspects, not only farmer-centric, but they are environmental friendly and they're able to also market responsive.
Fantastic. And that is actually a very important step, because sometimes we forget that the real center is the farmer, the person that is at the core of the coffee. And I want to add, because you discussed about marketing and others. So, and then we have listeners all over the world, and I really like the idea of the flavor map. So if you can tell us, where is the coffee of Kenya now being sold? I mean, and then is the government also focusing on really pushing this specialty coffee and also opening these links, and which are the ways people can find Kenyan coffee?
Oh, great. I think number one is, where are we selling our coffee? We still have most of our coffee, over 40% is going to the EU. Germany, Brussels, that's picking a little bit. Of course, Germany taking and then selling to everybody else. I wish we could be the one selling directly, but that's where it is. We have also the rest going to the US. America also takes quite a lot of our coffee. Then we have now the Eastern European countries. We have Latvia coming in. We have now again also the Asian countries. China has come up quite a bit, very good. South Korea, a bit. So we have all these other countries that are sourcing our coffee. And now the second thing is that what is the government doing to ensure that the Kenyan coffee find the right buyer? How does the government with the marketing? One thing which is very well captured in the Coffee Act 2026 is creation of a coffee board of Kenya. Now, creating of coffee board of Kenya is not necessarily the solution, but the resources that have been addressed is that there have been an industry levy set aside, about 20% be used for marketing. And this marketing is ensuring that working backward from what the farmer is producing is able to identify and ensure that we have more buyers that can. So there will be, and in the coming years, you see a lot of marketing efforts. And actually, the interest in this for the government is not just looking at the outside, the Europeans, the Americans, the Asians, and let us drink our coffee. Also looking at how can our own Kenyans drink our coffee? How can also using the African trade, how do we free trade area agreement to also have coffee enough? So you see a lot of them, the government, not just targeting the traditional markets, the EU, the US, and this agreement market will continue working with them. But how even within those markets, what are those specialty buyers that to be able to work with, and currently with technology able to now link that back, be able to the where it's being produced, and demonstrating that you're not just drinking the coffee. There's a lot of right. So there's a lot of that within the coffee board itself, and with the laws that are currently in place, making it easier for any buyer, any buyer to, if you today you want to buy as a buyer, you can access directly to the Kenyan coffee. So how can you get Kenyan coffee today? If you are in the US, you want Kenyan coffee. If you want, send me your email. I'll link you up with the buy. But anyway, on a serious note, what you can do, two things. You can we have licensed coffee dealers. These are people who buy coffee from Nairobi Coffee Exchange and then they export. So you can get a list of any of those who link with it, they'll be able to get sell you coffee. That's number two. We have several cooperatives that I said, like Kinyua cooperative, Kenyan cooperative, Udaya cooperative. There are many cooperatives that are already produced that you can very quickly get the email and you can arrange and can get coffee directly. Thirdly, you can also let's talk to our if you're in those countries, talk to our embassies. Now, these days, almost our embassy have the trade attaché, so that we don't now able to think how they can link you directly. Finally, link to our coffee directorate, and then you can get the. But seriously, also, if you find anywhere on my social LinkedIn or even Facebook, please also talk to me. I can link you up to anybody who's whatever coffee in Kenya. You can also get that. But that's how many ways you can access Kenyan coffee.
And this is also the way, we are trying with the podcast to really sell the gospel, of Kenyan coffee, which is actually, one of the best qualities in the planet. And I want to ask as a closing question, looking ahead, let's say, Henry, from 3 to 5 years, how do you see this movement and this comeback? How would you rate this success of the Kenyan coffee?
I think first, I'm very optimistic. Super optimistic that in the next 5 years, the Kenyan coffee, currently we have been between 45 and 52,000 metric tons of coffee. For the last 10 years, that's what we've been producing. So I see in the next 5 years, that number will have tripled. I see ourselves between 120, 150 in those 3 years. I see that within the next 5 years, I see that happening. Secondly, I think we have been the area of production. We have been about 280,000 acres, or about 113 hectares of coffee at a production. I see that one again also doubling because of the new areas that we are going into. Thirdly, I also see a lot of advance in research. We have the Coffee Act 2026 also ensured the Coffee Research and Training Institute is an autonomous body that will be able to raise their own resources, raise their own access government financing, through the exchequer, access the trade levy, and also be able to fundraise from different sources. So I also see a lot of strength on that of the research. I also see a lot of private sector participation, particularly in production of input seedlings. A lot of nurseries, we have private sector nurseries, whether cooperative owned or individual owned. We also see a lot of participating, ensuring that we are addressing all these problems, the issues, as I say, the issue of soil health and crop protection, the issue of information and others. So I see the next year Kenyan coffee filling every cup, or in the globally, for whoever is interested. We have the coffee, but we'll have more coffee. That's what I can say.
Fantastic. And as a closing, as we always do with all the guests, which message do you want to leave to our audience that is worldwide listening to you?
I'll say, when you buy Kenyan coffee, it is number one, the greatest coffee you'll ever taste in the globe. However, when you buy Kenyan coffee, it's not just the coffee. You are transforming lives. That Kenyan coffee is produced by about 800,000 households. If you do to 5, that gives you about 4 million people directly that produces that coffee. If you don't even count now the others when you drink that coffee, it is that farmer that you are rewarding. You're not. It's not charity. But drink the coffee. You see resources came to that. So if you are thinking of the Kenyan, the funny thing is that it is the greater the Kenyan coffee rocks. You drink it, you'll be like, this is it. However, that cup also truly and genuinely will transform, and does transform, lives of thousands and millions of Kenyan farmers. Drink Kenyan coffee, man. I'd leave it at that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Annie. It's been a pleasure and honor. Thank you for sharing your advice and your knowledge. I think many people know it was a master class on coffee, and especially on Kenyan coffee. Thank you so much. Are you satisfied after this wonderful episode? Let's continue together our sustainability journey.